My name is Hind. I'm from Lebanon. I'm the founder of Instabeat, which is a swimming wearable. I'll talk more about it later. But I'm here mostly to talk to you about wearables and the whole trend behind wearable technology and why it's so important and how it's impacting our lives. So if we go back to the definition of wearables, a wearable is an item that you wear. It's very easy. But the word wearable has become so popular lately, and it actually represents the concept of wearable technology. And so integrating a computer or an electronic system into a device you already wear. The first wearable technology product that was on the market was the watch calculator. It's really, really old, and so when I was looking this up, I was like, oh yeah, that was so long ago. But really, it is the first device that took an electronic component that we are using in our everyday life and put it in an item that we wear every single day, and it became so practical to use it, and this is how the whole trend spurred. And so you can guess that wearable technology has really evolved since the day of this calculator watch. And so it has been really influenced by three trends. First of all is the internet. Second of all is the smartphones. And third of all is the Quantified Self movement. So I'm sure you're familiar with what smartphone and internet are, so I won't explain those. But I'll explain what Quantified Self is. It's a movement that started around 2009, a little bit earlier. That's about people tracking data from their everyday life. And the whole point of tracking this data is to empower you to know more about your life and to take actionable decisions based on data. So for example, there are the very traditional things like tracking your weight, tracking how many calories you eat, but there's also the more medical stuff like tracking your sleep, tracking your heart rate, tracking your sugar level. And so all of these were things that people were doing, and then at some point, people gathered and combined into a movement, and they actually wanted to understand this data better and utilize it as a power for them. First of all, to compete against the healthcare system, but second of all, so they're able to make decisions themselves about what's best to lead a better quality of life. And so, in my opinion, wearables have gone down two paths. The path of the internet, and especially it has been spurred by the Google Glass, where you're connected everywhere, just by wearing these glasses. But also it has gone down the quantified self path, where the wearables are designed in order to empower you and make your life better. And so today, if you look on the market, you find wearables that track the calories, the steps. Those are the most popular ones. You have ones that track your distance, how many laps you're swimming, how many laps you're running. There are also a bit weirder wearables that track how many times you smile, how many pictures you take per day. And so the sun exposure, how many friends you have on Facebook to see how popular you are. And so really, all of these companies have been creating these really small technological devices in order to give you more accurate feedback about this particular aspect of your day. Taking a look at the most popular wearable product today on the market. So you see the first is the Misfit Shine. Misfit Shine is a bracelet that you wear, and it tracks your calories, your steps, your sleep. There's the Memoto camera that snaps a picture every 30 seconds and afterwards keeps log of them so that you're able to remember everything you've done. There's the Google Glass. There's the Lark bracelet that's pretty similar to the Misfit Shine. It tracks your steps and your sleep. There's the Fitbit. There's the Scanadu medical tricoder, which actually is supposed to give you much further insights, more than steps and calories. It can also give you your body temperature and analyze lots of diseases. There's more on the sports performance side, where they give you data like your heart rate, the lap splits, and all of this is for the aim of improving your performance. And then I put a picture of Instabeat, which is today on the market the first wearable tracker for a swimmer. And so if you look at these, they have one thing in common. They track one particular aspect of your daily life, whether it comes from walking, or it comes from your exercise, or it comes from browsing the internet. And then it collects this data and puts it on a dashboard where you're able to see this data and track the progress over time. And so if you take a look back at what the first wearable was, which is the calculator watch, and you take a look at the wearables of today, you will see that there's one missing component in the definition of wearables, which is that the wearables of today are an item that can be worn that integrate the electronic computer, but also that are connected to a software. And this is very, very important because today, without the data and actually being able to analyze this data, your wearable really has no meaning. And so if you take a look back at the slide where show the different wearables, each one of these does a really different thing and tracks a very different parameter of your daily life. And so yes, it's interesting to know how many steps you've walked, and it's interesting to know how many hours you've slept, but it's also even more interesting to know how the steps you've taken during that day have affected the hours that you've slept that day. So it's very important to be able to make the correlations between the different data that these devices are providing you. And each of these devices have their own separate platforms. I'm not sure I understood what people said before me, but I know that they're all sports-focused platforms, and all of these are focused on one particular area. And people want the bigger picture, and so you want to know your steps, you want to know your sleeps, you want to know your heart rate, but you want to be able to make smart correlations between those and to be able to understand better that if today I walk 10,000 steps more, I will be able to sleep an hour more, or vice versa. And so I would extend the definition of wearables to one third component, which is the device itself, the wearable, plus the software that provides you with the data, but also the ecosystem it plugs into, so that you're able to make sense of that particular set of data and correlate it with the other data that are affecting your daily life. When I first got exposed to the world of wearable and the promise that it can give you, I was so overwhelmed, and I thought this is game-changing, and I actually bought so many stuff that can track so many different things, but I realized that it's not mainstream yet, and so this has not been adopted by people. And as a person, first of all, that's a big fan of wearables, but second of all, that's working on a company that's producing wearables, I ask myself why. And first, I think if a picture is worth 1,000 words, these pictures can explain why. So if you look at Lark, which is the first bracelet to track activities and steps, you can see how big and bulky it is. And I don't think lots of people want to wear it. So compared to the Misfit Shine, who today is as small as a euro, this has incited people to wear it more and more. If you take a look at the first sleep tracker on the market, this is the Zeo, and it was actually so big, it's like a very big thing that you put next to your bed, and you have to wear like a headband around your head. So it was very inconvenient, very unpractical, and it was just not adopted. Compared to the Withings that today you just wear it, you put it under your bed, and it has like this crystal ball looking thing, and it just looks so much cooler, and it fits so much more with the design of your house. And here there's the GoPro versus the Mimoto. So you wouldn't see people wearing the GoPro on their shirt and just walking around snapping pictures, but the Mimoto has made the camera so small that actually you can barely notice it, and it encourages people more and more to wear it. And so wearable device makers have realized that wearables are so powerful, but in order to get people to actually wear them, we need to make them look pretty and make them look nice. So a lot of these companies have partnered with very big designers in order to make that happen. So Fitbit, for example, designed one of their bracelets with the fashion designer Tory Burch. And Google Glass has partnered with Luxottica, who make the Ray-Ban, in order to make the Google Glass more stylish and not so geeky. And there's this bracelet called June, which tracks the sun exposure, so how much you're exposed to sun per day in order to avoid skin cancer or skin diseases. And they've partnered with Philip Stark, which is a very big industrial designer. And like their bracelet now looks like a diamond, so you really have no idea that there's actually electronics into that. And so this is one of the problems, having very big devices because the technology is so complex behind it, but also having ugly devices. And I would add to it, based on my experience, is that short battery life is also one of the big turndowns. So having a device that you need to charge every single day is very annoying, because most of the time you end up forgetting to charge it and you wear it even when it's dead. And every time you remove it, you need to charge it, you need to remember to put it back on. And so this has caused people to adopt it less and less. Most devices are not waterproof, and for example, me that swims every day, I would never wear something that I cannot wear under the shower and in the pool, because I just get going and I need my devices to be waterproof. And the bigger challenge behind this is that today the ecosystem is still lacking the interpretation and the correlation between these different data. And so if you look at a lot of the studies, they show that people wear their wearable devices for the first 6 months because they get so excited, but then 30% of people stop wearing them afterwards. And that's because they're not able to extract the true meaning behind it and keep on wearing them, even though, despite all of these challenges. And so looking at all these problems, it reminds me a lot of the Segway. I don't know if you know the Segway. It's like this one-wheel thing. You get on it and you roam around the city. There's a lot of tourists that use those. And the Segway, when it first was invented, it was so cool and everyone got so excited about the idea. But it never was mainstream and the business was never able to grow because of all of these technological problems made it so hard for users to adopt them. And so what is the big deal about wearables, and why are we still talking about wearables despite all of these technological problems? Wearables are able to change your behavior. So I'll give you an example. This is my mom. She's 50. She works out 2 hours per day. So she's really sporty, and she definitely does not need the Misfit Shine I got her. So I got it to her as a gift because I felt it was the first bracelet that looked good enough for my mom to wear. And so I got it for her, and she only wore it in the beginning because just like to make me happy and not to throw away my gift. And so she wore it like for the first 2 weeks, and I didn't feel like she was pretty excited about it. And then one day I get back from the office at 11 p.m. I open the door and I see my mom in front of me, and she was like wearing her sports clothes and she was about to go out. I'm like, Mom, where are you going? She's like, I didn't reach my goal today. I have to go run in order to reach my goal, and so that the whole thing lights up. And so, my mom, who's 50, who's very technologically unsavvy, she started understanding the notion of setting a goal for your day. And even though she works out 2 hours per day, sometimes she doesn't walk at all during her day and she does not reach her goal. And so it just creates so much self-awareness, and you're able to change your behavior and make sure that you're actually reaching your goal and having that fitness level that you want to reach. So the second thing that makes wearables so awesome is that they're actually improving your life. Not only changing your behavior, but improving your life and improving the way you go about your life and you go about sports. So here I will talk about Instabeat. Instabeat is a module that you mount on any swimming goggles. So I got the idea when I was part of the university swimming team. Our coach used to give us our workout according to heart rate. So all we had was 800 meters, 70%, 500 meters, 30%. And so every time we had a target for our heart rate, but we never measured our heart rate while swimming. We would stop after the lap and we would measure our pulse manually. And I found this very intriguing because why would I need to know my heart rate after I've swum? I want to know it while I'm swimming in order to improve. And so it got me thinking, there must be something that helps me measure my heart rate. And so I looked around in the market, and all I could find was watches that were connected to chest belts. And I don't know if you swim, but swimmers really do not wear watches, and they especially do not wear chest belts. And so to me, this was not an acceptable alternative, and that was the reason why swimmers would not wear the watches and would not measure their heart rate while they're swimming. It's because the design was absolutely incompatible with swimming. And this is how the idea of Instabeat developed, having something that mounts on an accessory that swimmers already wear, which are the goggles, and removing the chest belt, which is very, very annoying, and putting it inside the device itself. So I don't know if you're able to see, but there's a screen sensor in the back. And this is actually what replaces the chest belt for the heart rate. And so I will wear it. Don't laugh. So it actually measures the heart rate from the pulse, from the artery that comes next to the eye, and it gives you a real-time feedback of your heart rate. And so there's 3 colors, blue, green, or red. So now, for example, my heart rate is around 120. This is why it's blue. And whenever my heart rate goes up, it will go green, and then even higher, it will be red. And so while you're swimming, you're able to see the colors, and you're able to understand whether you should go slower or faster. And this way, you make sure that during this particular lap, you swam at the heart rate that the coach told you to swim at, and you actually reach the goal of this workout. And more than just heart rate, it will measure how many laps you swam, so the distance and the speed as well. It will tell you how many calories you've burned. And of course, all of this data is stored on the online dashboard, so you're able to see your training afterwards. So your coach is able to see your training afterwards, but more importantly, so you're able to see how you've progressed over time. And so we've been working on Instabeat for the past 3 years, and it has taken a lot of time in order to manufacture and sell the product. And we've only started shipping actually a few months ago. And so here there's the picture. It's a bit blurry, but it's one of our German customers. So he bought Instabeat. He uses the Polar watch for his running. And at first he didn't want to use Instabeat without validating it with his Polar watch. So he went for a swim with his Instabeat and his Polar. And you can see on the 2 pictures, the first graph up is Instabeat, and the graph down is the Polar graph. And so it was actually the first time he swims with his Polar, because people don't swim with their Polar. And the Polar, I'm not talking about Polar, I mean the watches in general, so I don't mean anything against the brand, but the watch completely failed him in the salt water because first of all, the wireless connectivity does not work underwater. Second of all, salt water was blocking all communication, and so you can see that if he were relying on his watch, usually he would have had a blank graph, but with Instabeat he's able to analyze his stats for every single second of his workout. And really this changes the way you train, having so much data about your workout and being able to understand how your body was behaving during every workout and adjusting your workout according to that. And so this is the last impact I think that Wearable has, is that, and I also learned this from one of our other customers, is that wearables really have the potential of saving your life. And so Kristen is one of our customers. She added me on Facebook after she bought Instabeat, and we started talking, and I actually screenshotted this. She doesn't know that I screenshotted this, but I'm just going to read it to you. She said, this is actually the tool. So she's talking about the Basis watch. The Basis watch is a watch that measures your heart rate from the wrist. And she says, this is actually the tool that helped me figure out that I had Lyme disease. During my training cycles, I used it to measure my low resting heart rate, which for me was usually 45. But when I noticed it was constantly higher, I knew this meant my training needed to be pulled back, or that something was up with my immune system. Either I was sick or about to get sick. So my training was adjusted and I wouldn't drop for months. So, long story short, I kept going to the doctors knowing this was not normal, almost all other symptoms, until I eventually found Andrea, which means the Lyme disease. So Lyme disease is a very big disease. It's still very nascent. There's a lot of research behind it, but it actually can destroy your immune system. And just by looking at her watch before every training and noticing that her heart rate was higher than usually, she was able to convince the doctor that something was wrong with her. She had gone to the doctor so many times before, and he would not listen to her because she looked healthy and she was training for marathons and she was running and biking and she was fine. But just this very simple indication on her watch, she was able to convince the doctor that something was wrong, and then they ran tests and they found out that she has Lyme disease, and really her life completely changed after it, because now she's gone through the cure for the treatment for Lyme disease, and she's almost trying to heal. But it's a very long process, and had she caught it later than when she actually did, the consequences of the disease would have been far worse. And so really these simple things that we're not aware of, that can be integrated into simple elements that we wear every day, that have the potential of completely saving our lives. And so just to sum it up, there's a lot of wearables on the market today, and each gives you a lot of different data. And really, from the examples I've seen and from with our customers, but also from how other people use their wearables, it's really about how you take this data and what you do about it. Because we're still at the very nascent stage where these correlations in the ecosystem are not available, it's up to you really to look out for the different parameters that you feel are impacting your life, and look out how they're progressing, how they're affecting your life, and take actionable steps in order to improve the quality of your life. Thank you.